We got a lot of Tesla news and the stock is up over 6% today, so make sure to click the like button. And the Bear Tesla stock analyst Ben Callow says that the stock is about to go to $280 per share. And he points out that there's a business that's completely under the radar that Tesla is growing rapidly, and that's the energy business. Tesla's energy segment may not grab as much attention as the company's electric vehicle business, but its contribution to the company's valuation should not be underestimated. Rapid growth in deployments and gross margins exceeding those of the automotive business have begun shifting attention to this component of the company and raised the question of the energy segment's contribution to Tesla's valuation. Keep in mind, this is a new note that was just released today, and it's not 2 years old, which is roughly when I started talking a lot about the Tesla's energy business, and especially towards the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023 is when I talked a lot about the energy business. Utility scale has been viewed by many in the space as one of the brightest spots for renewables in recent past, and we agree. The headwinds of higher interest rates and high upfront costs for many renewable technologies have been more easily absorbed by large developers than individuals. We expect this to continue for the near term as interest rates will likely remain elevated for the foreseeable future. But look at this, interest rates about a year from now should be significantly lower, which will help not only the Tesla auto business, but also the energy business. Interestingly, Baird acknowledges that its assumptions may be light on volume. Tesla's Megapack factory in Lathrop is expected to reach annual production capacity of 40 gigawatt hours by year end, and with the Shanghai factory ramping in 2025. The analyst notes that the energy segment's valuation is not specifically broken out in the price target. Okay, that's interesting because they also say that it contributes about $41 per share to Tesla's combined valuation. I'm not necessarily talking about this case, but if sometimes you look at an analyst speak and you think this makes no sense, it's because it often doesn't. But I will definitely agree with Ben Callow here that the Tesla's energy business is under the radar and you want to watch out. Do not miss this. There will come a day when you will look at the Tesla stock price and the stock will be up 5%, and the next day it's up 5% again, and the next day it's going to be up 10%, and then you'll say no way it's going to go higher, and the stock will yet keep climbing up higher like it did from 2020 to about early 2021. Now, I am not going to be out of Tesla stock when that happens, but in the meantime things will be very volatile. We could be up and down, up and down, up and down. The Tesla deal with New York State is about to change dramatically because the current agreement is set to expire this year. If you didn't know, the factory produces Tesla's solar roof and superchargers. There are also some autopilot data analysts employed at the factory. Currently, Tesla has an agreement that requires an employment rate of 1,460 people at Gigafactory 2 and 2,000 total people across the state of New York. And if Tesla doesn't reach these thresholds, it would have to pay a $41 million fine. If on average Tesla pays $50,000 to one person, that would be an equivalent of about 800 people. The new agreement could run through 2034, and Tesla will employ 1,800 employees in Buffalo, up from 1,460, and Tesla will employ 3,000 employees statewide, up from 2,000, and penalties for not reaching the employment threshold will result in a $41 million penalty, but will drop to $10 million after 2029. Tesla already has a typo there. They said $10, not 10 million, but I double checked. It's actually 10 million. A $10 penalty would have been great. There are also adjustments to the rent that Tesla pays for the factory. Tesla currently pays $1 per year for rent. That's a great deal. This number will go up to $2 million through 2029 and $5 million through 2034. The Dojo supercomputer will be located at Gigafactory Buffalo, and Tesla needs to hire 500 more employees statewide if 10 showrooms are allowed to open across New York State. But all of this is still up in the air and it's being negotiated, and nothing has been signed yet. Well, this is a first for Tesla. Electrify Expo, North America's largest electric vehicle festival, just announced that the Tesla Cybertruck will be available to demo for drive for the first time exclusively at the festival stop in the San Francisco Bay Area, taking place from August 24th to 25th. So you know already who is going to have the busiest booth there. This is really good news. If this would have turned out differently, it would have potentially cost Tesla quite a bit of money, and it would have been an actual real recall. NHTSA has closed its preliminary evaluation of front suspension failure in Tesla vehicles, saying no instance of a failure of the part in question impacted the ability to control the vehicle. So even then the front suspension failed, you would still have been able to control the vehicle, making it not a safety issue. If you remember, there was this huge hit piece against Tesla, and a lot of bears and even some bulls it really took it to heart, and turns out this is not at all going to be an issue. For example, one thing that made Tesla look so bad is that Tesla recalled parts in China but not in the US, but Tesla actually said here that it was doing so just because the regulator required them to do it, not because Tesla thought there's some actual issue with the part. This was back in 2016, and Tesla did not want to upset China, so they just did what China asked them to do. And we also had this slide from supposedly inside of Tesla which showed that there was supposedly an issue with the front suspension parts or parts in the front of the vehicle, as you can see here. But let's say there is a front suspension issue. If it does break down, it does not make you unsafe. At least not based on NHTSA standards. Tesla has posted a new job listing for a 25 guns task force engineer and a lead group of Tesla engineers that report directly to Elon Musk. They solve the most challenging problems and were instrumental to the success of Giga Berlin. So when there is a big problem, they have to pay immediate attention to it. So these guys probably work during the weekends and holidays and stuff like that. Sometimes Tesla does make everything sound epic. This role, I like the name of it. Good news for Tesla continues here. In July, they just learned that Tesla Cybertruck was the best-selling vehicle in the US, priced over $100,000 for the second month in a row now. If you have been an investor for a while, you are a big fan too, I'm pretty sure, of vaporware turning into billions for Tesla. The Cybertruck has already generated close to $2 billion in revenue for Tesla so far this year alone, and Tesla said in its Q2 earnings report last month that Cybertruck is on track to achieve profitability by the end of 2024. I agree with AJ here. I think Tesla will deliver an all-time high sales record in China in 2024. Tesla started the year strong and recently gained market share. There's also no model transition this year, limiting product availability. You can also see in the chart that the Chinese market seasonality works almost like clockwork. The second half of the year is always stronger than the previous half. The Chinese EV market grows double digits year on year, and recent incentive hikes will ensure further accelerated growth. Yeah, there hasn't been a single year in China in the recent history where the second half of the year wasn't stronger. So Tesla should do very well in the second half of the year, specifically in China. This one is a bit hard to believe, but remember this article which I shared earlier? Tesla cuts base Cybertruck, raises prices by $20,000. They now turned this into an ad. Well, at least Elon Musk is making some money from this. At least this one is slightly less misleading because at least they specify here that they are talking about a whole trim. So is it really a price increase? There's of course a lot of nuance here, but the good thing is it did get community noted, so all of that ad revenue to X, and people see the community note, and of course we understand, okay, it's not really what it seems to be. I personally didn't see the community note because this is a screenshot that I found, and the screenshot does not have the community note, so it appeared probably a bit later. In the meantime though, Cybertruck production seems to be humming along, various carriers loading up vehicles here. There are now over 20,000 Cybertrucks on the streets, and you can find instances where two neighbors have Cybertrucks basically in the same location, the same street, but just on different sides of the same street. Cool. Some Tesla bears are pointing out that Tesla's inventory numbers are elevated, as you can see here in the chart. But I completely agree with James here. I remain unfazed by elevated inventory numbers because, number one, there's still a lot of time for these numbers to fall by quarter end. And number two, which is really the most important part, I think Tesla wants to build inventory this quarter ahead of Q4, which says nothing about demand in Q3. There will be downtime in Q4 for the Model Y refresh with factory upgrades. So of course we want to have extra inventory inventory. Elon did say that the Tesla Model Y refresh is coming in Q1 of next year, but many still believe that it's actually coming this year in Q4. It's just a game to keep selling old Model Ys before the refresh is out. Omar has an idea for Elon Musk and Tesla: one free drive a day for every Tesla customer in North America, referral program for FSD, get 1 month free when you refer someone to subscribe to FSD, and then free trials with every new major version. This definitely needs to be done, and Elon Musk already sort of said that it would be done. So if we don't see another free trial pushed out to everyone with a new FSD version, all that is saying to me is that this new version is just not that much better compared to the previous version. With 12.5 specifically though, it just hasn't gone wide yet, so there's no point in doing a trial if many people still don't have it. For example, if you have hardware 3 on your vehicle, you don't have it yet. There's an update from Truist Securities analyst William Stein. He said that we continue to argue that Tesla's AI efforts are significant to the stock. Certainly, investors should be focused on FSD and how well it works. Here, for example, Tesla FSD 12.5.1.3 handles complex double-lane roundabouts like a pro. I haven't disengaged on these since I got this update. That's very good. FSD videos get incredibly boring, and that's incredibly good news for Tesla investors. Look, it just goes smoothly, no issues. Omar confirms that he's having the same experience with roundabouts as well. By the way, this William Stein guy is the same guy who almost crashed using full self-driving recently, and he wasn't exactly excited about it, but he was using 12.3.6 and not 12.5. So just 2 weeks later, he now says, it's stunningly good, but not useful today. Wait, that sounds like a contradiction. How can it be stunningly good? Not just okay, but stunningly good and not be useful? What are you talking about? I know his name is not pronounced as Stein, but he has a stain on his reputation. So Stein clearly is being defensive as 12.5 is a massive improvement on 12.3. He has to defend his prior no by saying it's still not useful. Omar says that personally, I don't know how I could live without hands-free on highway. Tesla has been testing some hardware-free cars on Chuck Cook's turn, but we haven't seen a release for hardware-free cars yet. So that was 2 days ago. Yesterday specifically, there were no more hardware 3 cars, which could be good news because maybe that says Tesla now has enough data to release it to hardware 3 cars. But we did see Cybertrucks here, so maybe the Cybertruck release is going to be delayed by a little bit more. But we clearly can see that Tesla is working on getting FSD to Cybertrucks. Bradford is asking, will Tesla call it 12.6? I think only if that version is noticeably better than 12.5. If it's not, I think Tesla will just call it a new 12.5 point release. Elon commented on this. This is free cash flow history of pure EV makers, and you can see that Tesla is far ahead of everyone. Look at Lucid, look at Rivian here. Any car company that fails to solve self-driving will die. Or they could also just license the tech from Tesla. This is obvious to anyone using 12.5.1.3. It now routinely does hours of driving in San Francisco without any interventions at all, completely hands-free. Here are 3 big catalysts that would drive auto margins back to over 20% before regulatory credits. 2 are in Tesla's control, 1 is not. And these are independent of FSD penetration increasing, which would be upside. So number 1 is the factories closer to capacity, Austin and Berlin especially, are a big drag on profitability compared to Shanghai and Fremont. This is because they are operating below capacity on equipment which is not yet fully depreciated. So if Tesla can launch new products that utilize existing excess Model 3 and Model Y capacity, that would be greatly improving the productivity at the factories and lower costs for all vehicles built in those factories, even the Model 3 and the Model Y that share the production lines. And that is going to happen next year as Tesla releases new models. So it's really imminent. Number 2, ramping 4680 production, especially if using dry battery electrode, cathode, and anode, and assuming no change to the IRA battery production credits. Tesla gets $45 per kilowatt hour for in-house production of assembled battery packs, and that would be $3,600 of the cost to build a Model Y. So that could be another pretty big catalyst. And then, of course, we got interest rates, which are projected to go down. We got a new update here. This is possibly a robotaxi update. A total of 3 Model 3s with this unique camera setup were spotted today at a supercharger, giving us our best look at the cameras, including the front bumper camera. You can see the front camera here. This is one thing that Tesla seriously lack with front cameras. In some very tight situations, I would really want a front bumper camera just so that I know exactly where I am at when I'm parking in very tight situations, which in Canada, in Vancouver, that's common. Here's the camera at the back. Tesla is not really trying to even hide these cameras. It's sort of out in the open. And here's that camera that caused a lot of talk earlier when we first saw it. And here's another camera. I think this is sort of in the front near the steering wheel. But clearly, this is not for a Model 3. I mean, there's no way Tesla would just hide this much space. No way this is for the Model 3. I think this is for the Robotaxi or a new model, but most likely Robotaxi. There's also some good news about the 4680 battery cells here, specifically about the second generation battery, which is what is going into the Cybertruck right now. The cell can is 30% lighter and 33% thinner compared to the earlier generation, and this reduces the entire battery pack weight by about 10%. Which is significant, of course. But keep in mind, this is not the dry 4680 battery cell, so it will be interesting to see what happens with the actual dry battery cell. What should we expect with the Model Y refresh? James says, I don't expect the Model Y refresh price to increase or decrease. What Tesla will likely try to do is hold prices steady and do the following in order. Prioritize higher price trims. Wait times for rear-wheel drive trims will be longer than all-wheel drive, for example. So if you want the refresh, you will be forced to pay more. Reduce and maybe temporarily eliminate incentives, so finance rates, free color upgrades, supercharging, etc. Fill the backlog of lower price Model Ys, keeping the number 2 above constant, and only then increase incentives to push more volume when needed. Another consideration that may affect pricing strategy is this: if Tesla can launch another vehicle or other vehicles that use the Model Y line, there will be less of a need to discount because Tesla will presumably sell another car from that line with a lower average selling price, hopefully similar profit margin. Also, Tesla has some execution risk and Osborne risk coming up on the Model Y refresh. Ideally, they can make the switch in all 4 factories more or less around the same time. The Model 3 refresh was well managed in Shanghai, but in the US, I think part of that may have had to do with some third-party supplier issues, but the Model Y program is much larger in scope and affects 4 factories and not just 2, as was the case for the Model 3. Supply chain and planning needs to be on point. I think the Model Y refresh in China will be scaled without any really significant issues, but in other places, Fremont, I definitely expect not to be fast. The Model S and the X refresh, that was painfully slow. The Model 3 refresh in Fremont also not that good, so I wouldn't expect this time to be much different really with the Model Y, but in China, should be all good. And the Austin and the Berlin factories are much newer and they have more capacity, so hopefully the transition over there in these 2 factories will be quite a bit better. Fremont is packed, it's cramped, it's crowded, it's a bit hard to move there. So I can also see why it would be a bit more difficult to ramp up the production or transition the production over there. And as for the release date, James is expecting Q1 in 2025 for the Model Y. One thing though that the Model Y refresh has working in its favor is that it's going to share many of the refresh parts with the Model 3, so the ramp technically, in theory, should be quite a bit easier than the Model 3 refresh. It's just that we're going to have 4 factories instead of 2. I thought this was a pretty informative post. Tesla has the fastest charging BEV offering based on sales weighted average charging speed of BEV models sold. Number 2 is Hyundai and the Kia Group. BYD looks rather poor in this ranking, confirming their technological inferiority. AJ checked the calculation method and the ICCT's methodology is quite solid. BMW is number 3 and Volkswagen is number 4. And wow, compared to Tesla, it's not looking that good, only half as good if you just look at this metric here. Mercedes-Benz is supposed to be a luxury vehicle, but if you charge this slowly, I'm not sure you can say that. The score that BYD got was only 25. Wow. I don't see Lucid on this list, though. This is interesting. you can really see the impact of the Model 3 upgrades. Model 3 is now selling at a higher average transaction price than Model Y. So of course, the Model Y refresh next year is going to have a similar impact on Tesla sales. But yeah, this is pretty good. Warren made a prediction. He predicts Tesla will make a larger version of the Model Y to replace Model X in 2025. So 6 inches longer than the Model Y, 6 inches shorter than the Model X, but the same width as the Model X. Falcon wing doors, 48 volts, steer by wire. Steer by wire would be pretty nice. Tesla though also needs to make like a proper 3-row SUV. This one would look pretty interesting. Personally, I'm not expecting a bigger model, although I think that would be pretty good if Tesla does this. I like this post from Elon because it's on his main timeline and got millions of views already. He says, true, if you ask most people to name the most American-made vehicle, they will likely say the Ford F-150, but the Ford F-150 doesn't even rank in the top 50. But the Model Y is the #1 most American-made car with 70% of the parts sourced from the US and Canada. I was sort of really hoping that during the interview or the conversation between Elon Musk and the former president earlier this week, that Elon Musk would bring something like that up. Wouldn't this give a lot of talking points to the other political side to sort of be more pro-electric vehicles, or at least Tesla, pro-Tesla? So that was a missed opportunity. Maybe next time then. Okay, so I have slightly mixed feelings about this specific post. On one hand, I'm a big fan of this. XAI has released a new blog post saying that they are announcing an early preview of Grok 2, a significant step forward from the previous model, Grok 1.5. Based on Sawyer's personal experience, this is a big improvement compared to the previous version, based on the initial testing that he has done. So XAI is making progress fast here, and the rate of innovation is the fundamental metric for determining the probable success of a technology company, and judging XAI based on just that one metric is doing very well, which is why I am not exactly the happiest that Tesla has not made the investment yet. The more time goes by, the higher the valuation will be and the less XAI shares Tesla will have. So I want that investment to be made like right now. So that's the only reason I'm not exactly super thrilled about this. If Tesla already made the investment into XAI, I would be all over this celebrating. And this is the stunning part. At the time of this blog post, this Grok version is outperforming both Claude 3.5 and GPT-4 Turbo. This is very promising. So I'm happy, but also a little bit, Tesla, invest the money already into XAI. What are you waiting for? You're only going to get a worse deal. Here are some tests, and you can see the old Grok version, which compared to this new version isn't, yeah, the improvement is massive, and it's certainly overall better than GPT-4. Very impressive. And XAI is going to benefit from a lot more compute as well in the near future. It also makes images. They look pretty good. Create an image with the Tesla Roadster parked next to Lake Como in Italy, which is a beautiful place. I love staying there, with a beautiful sunset. Looks very good. I also like this, this image. So very impressive progress from XAI. XAI, I also personally believe, is going to be extremely important to Tesla when Tesla starts scaling the Tesla bot. XAI is probably going to be running the software in the bot for the most part. Before, I could have easily made an argument that it makes maybe more sense for Tesla to just build its own large language model, but if Tesla invests a lot of money into XAI and owns a significant portion of XAI, it would sort of be like doing the same job twice. Unnecessary. And here's slightly jaw-dropping news here if you follow this story from before, which I reported in detail earlier. The EU accused its internal market commissioner of going rogue by sending a letter to Elon Musk threatening punishment hours before Elon interviewed the US presidential candidate on X. Elon replied with interesting. So that Frenchman, who has been going after Elon Musk for a while now, did not inform the commission president about the public letter to Musk ahead of its publication on X. 4 separate EU officials speaking on the condition of anonymity said Breton's warning to Musk has surprised many within the commission. This is great news for Tesla in Europe. The bloc's enforcers were still investigating the platform for potential wrongdoing, and the EU did not want to be seen as potentially interfering in the US presidential election because they know if they are seen as that, the consequences will be terrible. And at this point, it's a bit too late unless they just remove that commissioner. Retten's letter to Elon is not approved by the EU and is unprecedented and frankly said ridiculous. Look at how the media is reporting this story. EU takes a shot at Musk over the interview and misses. Europe's chief digital official faces fire for interfering in the US election. That's pretty much in the headline right there. And if you haven't seen this one, this is quite something. This got 63 million views pretty much, and this was on the same day as the interview happened, before the interview happened. So there was this letter first. Elon quoted that letter, and this is basically a reply to that politician. To be honest, I really wanted to respond with this Tropic Thunder meme, but I would never do something so rude and irresponsible. Take a big step back and literally bleep your own face. One of those politicians that got caught off guard by this letter from this politician said, the EU is not in the business of electoral interference. DCA implementation is too important to be misused by an attention-seeking politician in search of his next big job. This is great for Tesla because this lowers the probability of anything really bad happening to Tesla in Europe. I just made a new exclusive video on Patreon. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you are a Patreon supporter, I will see you on Patreon. By joining Patreon, you will have access to all of my exclusive videos on Patreon, as well as how much I am willing to pay for each Tesla share between 2024 and 2033. If you join the investor tier, you will also have access to my valuation model, where you will see all of my assumptions, including deliveries, the energy business, Tesla's future businesses like FSD, and of course much more. And then if you want to easily download that and put in your own numbers, then this third tier is for you. To all of my Patreon supporters, thank you so much. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet as well. It's really important to like the videos because that makes it less likely that the channel will be shadow banned later, like my other big channel got shadow banned before from about 50% of my regular viewers. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.